Well, welcome to the congregation of Yahweh in Panama City, Florida. We're gathered together in the presence of Yahweh and Yeshua to worship Him in spirit and in truth. Yahweh is speaking to the people today when He speaks through His prophets. Many people like to think that when we read the prophets and we look back and we're not in the New Testament, that's the old law and that's been done away with. That is a problem with understanding the Scripture. Yahweh is speaking to His people. Now, the first place, the book of Isaiah, has the title Isaiah. Isaiah was the scribe that penned the title, or penned the book. But when you read the context, you will find that Yahweh is speaking to the people. And Yahweh is not speaking to the ancient people. He refers to the ancient people, but He's speaking to the future people. He's speaking in this scripture in the first person to the descendants of the people that Yahweh called Israel. In the book of Isaiah, in chapter 51 and verse 1, it says, "Hearken to me," and we'll use that as the title. "Ye that follow after righteousness." He is speaking to future people and identifying them, and they that follow after righteousness will understand this. "Ye that seek Yahweh, look unto the rock whence you are hewn." What rock are we hewn from? That is what we must understand.
Lord, is you mean?
"And to the hole of the pit whence ye are digged." We came from somewhere, and Yahweh created us, and He's referring to us in a metaphor that we were dug from a pit. "Look unto Abraham your father." Now, Abraham is the father of nations. That's what his name means in the Hebrew language. Yahweh chose Abraham to place the covenant on the human race, and He told him he would be a father of many nations. And he's not just the father of the Jews, He's the father of the Jews and all the rest of the house of Israel. And He's the father of the nations that's not even carries His name, because father means caretaker, means keeper, means a prince or a ruler. And when you read the covenant of Abraham, you will see that Yahweh gave him the land. And the servants, or the people who live on the land, are under His protection. So He is their father, in so many words. And Yahweh is guiding this. He says, "And unto Sarah who bore you, for I called him alone and blessed him and increased him." See, the blessing that Yahweh placed on Abraham was inherited by Isaac and was inherited by Yaakov. And therefore, it perpetually extends down to the future generations. He says, "For Yahweh shall comfort Zion. He will comfort all her waste places. He will make her wilderness like Eden." Yahweh is very mindful of Zion. And Zion is from whence comes the knowledge of His word to the people. And He chose Jerusalem to be the center of the earth. And so therefore, He's referring back to Jerusalem when He makes this statement. He says, "Her desert like the garden of Yahweh." Jerusalem originally was in a desert, but Yahweh made it like a garden. And even today, it has some semblance, but it's still got its problems. But Yahweh will soon address those problems in Jerusalem and in Europe, in America, in the West, and in the Far East. Yahweh is going to address those problems. But what we need to do now is understand that Yahweh is in command. His question was, or demand was, hearken unto me. If the people hearken unto Yahweh and forget about traditions and afraid that they're going to be under some burden if they start keeping His commandments, or they want to defy His commandments, they would begin to see that He has a tender love for the people. This message is Yahweh speaking His love to His people. He says, He found a desert like the garden of Yahweh. Joy and gladness shall be found therein. Thanksgiving and the voice of melody. See, Yahweh wants us to have thanksgiving, wants us to have joy, wants us to be pleasant and be blessed. And when people seem to sing songs, they get blessed. Even if they're not really comprehending what we're talking about here, they're still blessed when they sing songs. That's the reason the music industry is so popular. And anyway, Yahweh is leaning His words toward His people. And here's what He says, hearken to me, my people. Who is He talking to? His people. Who are His people? The ones that receive this message. And He's speaking to the generation from ancient all the way to the future. He's not just talking about a few ancient people and it's over with, and we went through few wars, and now we in modern times, and that don't mean anything to us anymore. But it does. We are the inheritors. When we look back over just our little short family and see where we come from, even if it's simple, it's still a blessing and a joy to understand who our father and our grandfather and our grandmother and our great-grandmother and great-grandfather. He says, hearken unto me, my people. So Yahweh is calling us His people. So it's great for us to understand that. We can look back and say, well, look, if He calls me His people, I must be an heir. There is a covenant, and the recipient of the covenant is an heir. So if we want to understand this, let's pay attention to what the Scripture is saying. He's talking to us. He's right here tenderly speaking to His people, wherever they might be. And give ear unto me, O my nation. He calls us a nation. He's collectively mentioning everybody that's in that family, all the way back. For a law shall proceed from me. Now this is what blocks most people. They don't like the word law. The word law could have had a better translation, or it could have been a transliteration, and just call it what it is. It's a Torah. And a Torah is not a condemnation. Even a law is not a condemnation. Only violating the law brings a condemnation. The law is just a process of what is right and what we're supposed to do. So we should cherish the law. I'll read that again. For a law shall proceed from me. It's going to come from Yahweh. It's not from somewhere abstract, or it's not just a tradition from some uninformed people. It is from Yahweh, and He gave it to the people. And I will make my judgment to rest for a light of the people. Now this word judgment, you need to look it up and analyze it and divide it like it's supposed to be. It's not a final ruling. It is a common, everyday, right ruling. Judgment could have been translated Torah just as easy as any other word, because Torah means right ruling, walking in the right path. The directions, so to speak, on the label, you follow the directions. The Torah is follow the directions. It's something that we need to cherish because it brings us our mind toward Yahweh. In Strong's, the Hebrew word Torah means a precept or a statute, especially the Decalogue or the Pentateuch. It means law. Now, the Decalogue, from the dictionary, means a basic set of rules carrying binding authority. If you hear the word Decalogue or you read the word Decalogue, it's telling us that it is a list of rules. It is a right ruling that carries a binding authority. And then the Pentateuch is to make some fearless the first 5 books of the Bible. The Pentateuch is, when it's mentioned, they mention the whole Bible, but what's in the first 5 books of the Bible is to make more fearless because it comes from Yahweh. And Yahweh is using it as instruction. The instructions for the people. And the word law, defined by the, judgment. The word judgment, defined by Strong's, is mishpat in Hebrew. Properly, a verdict, favorable or unfavorable. See, it splits both ways. Pronounced judicially, and especially a sentence or formal decree, whether human or particularly divine law. See, if we're looking at divine law, then we understand that it comes from Yahweh. He says individual or collectively, including the act, the place, the suit, the crime, the penalty, abstractly, justice, including a particular right or privilege, statutory or customary, or even a style. Adversely, ceremonially, charge, it's a crime, a custom, desert, determination, discretion, disposition, due, fashion, and form. To be judged, past tense, and judgment. So this is basically what judgment is all about. And when we apply that, apply the principles, we can walk with freedom in this life. Now, if we disobey them, we can't be free. And we were not freed from obeying this rule because Yeshua or Jesus died on the stake. Too many people have that misconception. He didn't die on the stake for us to be free from keeping the commandments. He didn't take the commandments away from us because that was the most cherished thing that Yahweh ever blessed us with. The commandments are Yahweh's rules for us to walk righteously in this earth. In Isaiah chapter 51 and verse 5, my righteousness is near. Yahweh is speaking to the people. My salvation is gone forth. Now he's talking about Yeshua. Listen to this and and remember the action in Jerusalem. Mine arm shall judge the people. Yeshua came to be a ruler, a prince, a judge. The isles shall wait upon me. the people in every country around, as far as they're spread out from Jerusalem, will wait for Yahweh. And on mine arm shall they trust. The people, hearing this word and understanding it, trusts in Yahweh. And that is our trust. If we did not have this trust and this confidence with what's going on in the world today, we would be very disturbed. Verse 6, lift up your eyes to the heavens. Yahweh is asking us to look up to Him. Metaphorically. We're in our minds and in our hearts, we're listening to Him speak. And look upon the earth beneath, for the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment. And they that dwell therein shall die in like manner, but my salvation shall be forever. Yahweh is salvation. And it is for His people, for His treasure, for His creation. We're too important for Yahweh to leave and lose. He loves His creation. He said, and my righteousness shall not be abolished. Yahweh loves righteousness, for He is righteousness. And His creation is going to develop righteousness. He is going to impart righteousness to His people. In verse 7, hearken unto me, ye that know righteousness. Those that have a little glimpse of it, those that have studied, we have been introduced to it. The people in whose heart is my law. The people in their heart is His law. That is who He is talking to. He's trying to have a conversation with us. Fear you not the reproach of men. See, we don't fear what men can do to us because we have the righteousness of Yahweh in our heart. The Torah is embedded because we have learned it and we've practiced it, we've read it, and we have prayed about it, and Yahweh has had a relationship with us, and so we do not have to be afraid. Neither be afraid of their revelings. What's going on in Washington will affect everybody in the United States. Don't be afraid of it. It's their revelings. Yahweh is taking care of His people. He said, and the worm shall eat them like wool, but my righteousness shall be forever. Yahweh will not diminish. His righteousness will not diminish. His protection and His love for His people will not diminish, no matter where they go. Even the Lincoln ones, He is working a method to bring them back. He talks about that from the beginning. He says, and my salvation from the generation to generation. Think about Yahweh's salvation. Yahweh made the whole plan, fulfilled the whole plan, and taught us about it. And when we read about the crucifixion in Jerusalem, and we understand the basis for it, it makes sense that we have, or He had to do that. But if you look at it from a human standpoint, without understanding that was just a useless, brutal murder by the government and by the religious order that killed a man 2,000 years ago, and that's all there is to it. And if it didn't really happen, it's fable. That's the way the mind of the world works. But Yahweh caused it to be our salvation. And it is from generation to generation. And verse 9, awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of Yahweh, awake. As in the ancient days, in the generations of old, art thou not it that hath cut Rahab and wounded the dragon? See, He made ways for salvation. Yahweh did that. Art thou not it which hath dried up the sea? There was a time when Yahweh dried up the sea and let a whole nation walk. And the waters of the great deep, that hath made the depths of the sea a way for the ransom to pass over. Therefore the redeemed of Yahweh shall return. All these ransom that was put, we call it the westward migration, the migration of the peoples from all over the world, they progressed over the sea. Now he is going to let them return over the sea and claim their salvation, claim their inheritance. He says, and come with singing unto Zion. That's the reason it's important for us to sing. We get many blessings from singing. Everlasting joy shall be upon their head, and they shall obtain gladness and joy, and sorrow and mourning shall flee away. Now this is not a dream. This is Yahweh speaking in the first person to his people. Verse 12, I, even I, am he that comforteth you. If we have any comfort in this world, it's Yahweh and our relationship with Yahweh. And when we pray, he gives us comfort for endurance of things that's going on. And he provides for us so we can continue. He says, who art thou, that thou shouldest be afraid of a man? Yahweh said, now who are you now that you should be afraid of a man? No matter what kind of authority he claims to have, no matter what kind of lie or deceit that he tries to persuade you with, don't be afraid of him. When you have your relationship with Yahweh, that still small voice will speak. He says, that shall die, and the Son of Man which shall be made as grass. The enemies will pass away, in other words. Verse 13, and forgets Yahweh thy Maker, that hath stretched forth the heavens and laid the foundation of the earth, and hath feared continually every day because of the fury of the oppressor, as if he were ready to destroy. And where is the fury of the oppressor? See, Yahweh takes charge. Don't be afraid of what's going to happen. And especially don't be afraid of what might happen. There's too many people go through life afraid something's going to happen and it never happens. And then the stuff that they need to be worried about or be attention to, they don't worry about, and it happens wrong to them, and then they have problems. Verse 14, the captive exile hasteneth that he may be loosed, and that he should not die in the pit, nor his bread should fail. But now listen to this, verse 15. But I am Yahweh your Elohim, that divides the sea, whose waves roared. Yahweh of hosts is his name. Yahweh of hosts. Now that word host comes from the Hebrew word sevah, which means armies. Armies. Now, this is his next statement, verse 16. And I have put my words in thy mouth. Yahweh can cause you to speak. Yahweh will put his words in your mouth. And he says, I have covered thee with the shadow of my hand. See, when Yahweh's shadow is over your dwelling and over your house and over your life, you don't have to worry about what might happen. That I may plant the heavens and lay the foundations of the earth. Yahweh is definitely in charge of that operation. And to say unto Zion, Thou art my people. The people who have read this book, who have applied this book, who are understanding this book, who try to learn this book, they're his people. That's what he's talking about. Awake, awake, stand up, O Jerusalem, which hath drunk at the hand of the Yahweh the cup of his fury. Now, Yahweh did chastise Israel, and they had to drink the cup of the fury of Yahweh. He said, Thou hast drunken the dregs of the cup of trembling, and wrung them out. Verse 18, There is none to guide her among all the sons of whom she hath brought forth, neither is there any that takes her by the hand of all the sons that she hath brought up. That's when people begin to doubt and pull away and not do what they need to do. Verse 19, These two things are come unto thee. Who shall be sorry for thee? Desolation and destruction, and the famine, and the sword. But whom shall I comfort thee? The sons who fainted, they lie at the head of all the streets, as a wild bull in the net. They are full of fury of Yahweh, the rebuke of thy Elohim. Therefore, hear now this, thy affliction and drunken, but not with wine. They are afflicted and drunken, but it's not with wine. Thus saith thy sovereign Yahweh, and thy Elohim pleads the cause of his people. Behold, I have taken out of thine hand the cup of trembling. Now he's speaking this into the future. This is one of the promises that was not fulfilled in the ancient times, so it had to be when it was to be fulfilled. And he is doing this. Even the dregs of the cup of my fury, thou shalt no more drink it again, but I will put it into the hand of them that afflict thee. Those people that overreacted and punished Israel beyond the recommendation of Yahweh, they will receive that cup of affliction. He says, which have said in thy soul, bow down, that we may go over. And thou hast laid thy body as the ground, and as the street to them that went over you. See, that's those people who have been oppressed and overruled and dominated by different governments throughout the way. It's going to be reversed. In Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 1, and it shall be when all these words come upon you, the blessing and the curse which I have set before you, and you shall bring them back to your heart among all the Gentiles where Yahweh your Elohim drives you. See, he's speaking to a special people, and he's telling them that he's going to reverse the problem and bring a blessing. And in the book of 1 Peter, chapter 2 and verse 9, he says, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a set-apart nation, a people for a possession, that you should proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. See, when we understand what Yeshua is all about, we fit this description. And as a people, not as an individual. Some people say, well, I'm just not a priest. You don't have to be a priest to be in the priest nation. Your inheritance is that you will be the priest nation. I'll read that again just so you can get the sound of it. But you are a chosen race, that's all of us together, a royal priesthood, the whole race, a set-apart nation, a nation that is set apart for Yahweh's work. Yahweh did the setting apart. We didn't just go off somewhere and get that way. He set us apart. A people for a possession. Who possesses us? We are the possession. Yahweh possesses the possession. So we are the people who are possessed with Yahweh or by Yahweh. He says that you should proclaim the praises of Him who called you out of darkness into His marvelous light. When we sing praises to Him, that's what we're doing. We're in the light so we can sing the praises. We know who to sing the praises to. And Yahweh is ready for us to understand that. He says in verse 10, who once were not a people. Israel in the past was not a people, especially when they were in their migration. They were not organized, and many of them didn't know who they were. They lost. They took on other names, and we have a mass of names in the genealogies of where our ancestors come from. But now the people of Elohim, when He calls us and we understand that it don't matter where we came from through our genealogy, we are His people. We are Elohim's people who had not obtained compassion. Our ancestors didn't get this compassion in many generations back, but now obtain compassion. I believe that if we've got this in the right context, He's speaking about this generation, that we are ready for the fulfillment of the compassion of Yahweh, and we are going to see it manifested. He says in Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 2, and shall turn back to Yahweh your Elohim and obey His voice, according to all that I command you today, with all your heart and with all your being and with all your children. Now this was the instruction to the people when they were being chastised in the wilderness. But He's promised to come back. So this must be the future, must be the time that He is going to bring it back and restore it. In verse 3, then Yahweh shall turn back your captivity. Yahweh is in the process of turning back the captivity of His people, wherever they might be scattered, and shall have compassion on you. See, that's important for people to know. Yahweh has compassion on you, on His people, collectively as a nation on us. And He shall turn back and gather you from all the people where Yahweh your Elohim have scattered you. All the peoples that have been intermingled with the peoples that He is talking about in this prophecy, He is going to select you out wherever we were scattered. Verse 4, if any of you are driven out to the furthest parts under the heavens. And we did experience sending the man to outer space, and one landed on the moon. Of course, we had to bring him back, but anyway, that scripture, if it was possible to colonize the heavens, Yahweh could bring from the farthest distance back, from where your Elohim doth gather you, and from there He doth take you. And Yahweh your Elohim shall bring you to the land which your fathers possessed. He is going to bring us back to the land. And it's a bigger project than what most people's minds think. They think they got to go back to Canaan where Abraham had the little altar, and that's the land that we got to go back to. But Yahweh gave Abraham the land that joined his. And wherever the feet of Israel have trod, that is the land that belongs to Abraham. And you shall possess it, and He shall do good to you and increase you more than your fathers. Each generation is going to be increased more than the fathers. Go back and read how He blessed the covenant people, beginning with Abraham. Blessed Isaac and his generation. Blessed Jacob and his generation. And then all the way down through the track until the present day. Verse 6, Deuteronomy 30:6. And Yahweh your Elohim shall circumcise your heart and the heart of your seed. Think about that. He's interested in that heart being circumcised. He didn't make a custom out of it. Now, it will ultimately be fulfilled like he said it would do. He says to love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart. See, that circumcision of the heart makes us love him with all our heart. It's not just a tradition. It's not just because we were made to go to a church. It's because we have the circumcised heart. We desire it. Like keeping the commandments. We don't keep the commandments because we're forced to. We keep the commandments because we desire to. Yahweh changes your being to where you want to obey him. Not keep you afraid and say, oh, we don't have to keep them old commandments anymore. They were too hard. And he knew it, so he gave us a new covenant. That's not a new covenant. He's going to make this covenant renewed in the minds of the people so they can understand it. He says, and with all your being, so that you might live. Yahweh is desirous for us to live. And I'm talking about live, not just draw breath and wait till payday, and then when the payday runs out, give it up. He wants us to live mentally, spiritually, loving him daily, accepting the blessings, fellowshipping with our brothers, and let the brothers fellowship with each other, and the people learning to love one another. Verse 7, and Yahweh your Elohim shall put all these curses on your enemies and those who hate you, who persecute you. In other words, the punishment that they were having is going to be reversed. Verse 8, and you shall turn back and obey the voice of Yahweh and do all his commands which I commanded you today. Now, does that sound like that he made a new covenant and you don't have to keep his commandments anymore? This is the new covenant, is learning how to keep his commandments. And Yahweh, your Elohim, shall make you to have excess in all the work of your hands. That means that you will be blessed and prospered by the work of your hands, that he guides you. And he says, and in the fruit of your body, in other words, the family will be blessed with many children. And Yahweh is interested in children. And if he doubles the population of the earth right now, he still have room enough to keep them. And then if the next generation he doubles the population again, he'll make room to keep them. So we don't have to have governments telling us that we're overpopulated and that we are putting too much carbon in the air and be taxed on our activities because we drive the roads and stuff like that. Yahweh will take care of it. Yahweh is going to bless the fruit of the body and the fruit of your livestock. See, those that have livestock and those that have need of livestock won't have to worry about not having any. He said, and in the fruit of the ground for your good. This earth would feed the population if it was 20 times what it is right now, if we didn't have man dabbling in the way with regulation. He says, for Yahweh turns back to rejoice over you for good, as he rejoiced over your fathers. Can you imagine that Yahweh is just looking back on this generation today, this modern generation, and rejoicing because they have made it this far? And we don't know how far we got to go. But he's rejoicing because he's making the progress. He loves us enough that He wants us to understand that He cares for us. Deuteronomy 30:10. If you obey the voice of your Elohim, if you read this scripture and you hear what it's saying when you read it, because when it goes in your mind, in your heart, you hear it. That gives you a desire to want to understand it. Now, if it's just so many words and you just go on about your business and you don't care anything about it, it's of no benefit. But when you hear this word, here's what you'll do. To guard His commandments and His laws, which are written in this book of the Torah. Does that sound like He's done away with His law? Or will do away with His law? If they try to say that, oh, that's in the Old Testament, there's no promise that He'll do away with His law. Nobody can find it. But there is a promise that He'll keep it forever. He says, and you turn back to your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being. See, that's the problem with the people today. They're not looking at Yahweh with all their heart. They're looking at tradition. They're looking at things that's happening. They're looking at physical things, and they look how much money they have to make every month to survive and all like that. They're not looking at the producer of life. He says, for this command, which I am commanding you today. Now, this is what he's saying. It sounds like it's a new commandment, but he's just making contact with us. It is not too hard for you. When somebody tells you, oh, that's too hard, say, no, it ain't. Look at it. This commandment is not too hard for the people. Even a simple person can understand that. He don't have to have a PhD education. He says, nor is it too far off. We don't have to go to Jerusalem to read the book to find out this information. It's been printed on a little book and sent to us. They even got it on computer now, and everybody's reading computers. And if they would throw away the junk and get down to the right page, they could read it right on the computer. But it's been here. It's not afar off. Verse 12. It is not in the heavens to say, who shall ascend into the heavens for us? See, He didn't send it off too far from us. He says, and bringing it to us, and cause us to hear it, so that we do it. See, we don't have to have somebody to go get it and hear it and bring it to you and let you hear it and cause you to do it. When we get on the right page with Yahweh, we have a desire to do it. We don't come to service because we have to. We come because we want to. We want to fellowship one with another. It's not an obligation to come out here. It's your privilege to come out here. It's your privilege to read this book. It's your privilege to talk to Yahweh and say, Father, guide me, help me. Open my mind and open my heart and let me reason like you would have me reason. Don't have my brain confused with a lot of earthly confusion. Verse 13. Nor is it beyond the sea to say, who shall go over to the sea for us, to bring it to us and cause us to hear it, so that we do it. We don't have to send Frank over to Jerusalem to get a book to come back over here and read it to us. It's already here. Yahweh is in the present tense speaking to His people. For the word is very near you. This is Him speaking. It's very near. And if we didn't have this printed page, He could perform a miracle and put it in our heart anyway. We can't bring up excuses. We just need our desire changed. In your mouth and in your heart to do it. See, I have set before you today life and good and death and evil. And in that I am commanding you today to love Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in his ways, and to guard his commands, and his laws, and his right rulings, and you shall live and increase. And Yahweh your Elohim shall bless you in the land which you go to possess. Now our ancestors came to America and they possessed. In each generation they worked and toiled and they possessed. And this generation sitting right here has worked and possessed. So we're in the land that Yahweh has let us possess. Think about that. And Yahweh allowed that. He probably engineered that. But if your heart turns away, now this is what troubles everybody. This brings the troubles on the people. Our hearts turn away. And you do not obey, and shall be drawn away, and shall bow down to other mighty ones and serve them. That is keeping the laws of Baal, keeping customs, and following after false deities. He says, I have declared to you that you shall certainly perish, and you shall not prolong your days in the land which you are possessing over the Jordan to enter and possess it. In verse 19, I have called the heavens and the earth as a witness today against you, and I have set before you life and death, and blessings and the curse. Therefore you shall choose life, so that you live, both you and your seed. Today, let us choose life. Verse 20. To love Yahweh your Elohim, to obey his voice, and to cling to him, for he is your life and the strength of your days. To dwell in the land of Yahweh, which Yahweh swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov, to give to them. It is time that the people realize that Yahweh is speaking to this generation. Hearken unto me. May Yahweh bless.